Attention East Colfax residents. This is a community notification of a new sexually violent predator in your area. Please stay tuned to the following short program for more information.
Hi, I'm Technician Ron Hackett with the Denver Police Department. The Sex Offender Registration and Compliance Unit at DPD is responsible for the registration, monitoring, and tracking of all registered sex offenders and sexually violent predators who live in the city and county of Denver. Here's a brief history of sex offender legislation in Colorado. Our state laws trickle down from federal government mandates. In 1994, we had the Jacob Wetterling Act, which mandated that states would establish a sex offender list. Megan's Law of 1996 said that the public would have access to those sex offender registration lists. The Pam Lichner Act of 1996 stated that some offenders might have to have lifetime registrations. And the Adam Walsh Act of 2006 unified sex offender laws across the country. In Colorado, the legislature has determined that sexually violent predators, by definition, pose a higher risk to the community at large, and therefore mandated that upon their release from the Department of Corrections, the community must be notified. Sex offender notification in Colorado happens in two ways. The first is passive and ongoing through the sex offender registration process, which is a list maintained by local police departments. The second way is active, via community notification for those offenders determined to be sexually violent predators by the courts or by the parole board. Most sex offenders in Colorado are supervised by the criminal justice system in our communities. Most sex offenders engage in crossover behavior, which means they may have been arrested for one type of crime, but be apt to commit another. Many sex offenders have no criminal history at all prior to their arrest. There is no typical sex offender, but all tend to be deceptive, manipulative, and secretive. 80 to 93% of sex offenses are committed by someone known to the victim. Sexual deviancy begins in mid to late adolescence. Sex offenses are not impulsive. They are usually carefully planned, and most sex offenders are male. The community has a vested interest in helping offenders to be successfully managed in the community. Sex offenders have the same need for housing and employment as any other citizen. Any citizen who uses sex offender information to harass, threaten, or intimidate an offender will be subject to criminal prosecution. There are approximately 16,500 registered sex offenders in the state of Colorado. About 65% of convicted sex offenders are placed in the community on probation. The remainder are in the Department of Corrections or Community Corrections. Offenders may be caught for one type of offense, but be at a high risk to commit another type. Crime of conviction is only one indicator of risk. A sexually violent predator must register with the Denver Police Department Sex Offender Registration Unit every 3 months for the rest of their life. The offender's residence must be verified quarterly by the Denver Police Department. The full sex offender registration list is available by calling the Denver Police Department Identification Bureau at 720-913-6756. Convicted felons and those with multiple convictions are posted online at denvergov.org/police. Remember, sexually violent predators do not represent all dangerous sex offenders. The community notification process and sex offender registration are not a complete deterrent to sexual assault. Now, here's a look at the newest sexually violent predator living in Denver.
Here's an overview of the registered sex offenders currently living in Denver. There are 2,462 total living within city limits. In Denver Police District 2, there are 422. Precinct 223 has 102 registered sex offenders. Of those, 80 have felony convictions and 22 have misdemeanor convictions. Frank Roberto Maestas is a sexually violent predator currently living in Denver. He's 57 years old and was born on January 28, 1968. He's a Hispanic male, 5 feet 8 inches tall, 180 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He's currently living at 1474 Xenia Street, number 3 in the East Colfax neighborhood of Denver. Schools located within 1 mile of this offender. Denver School of Science and Technology, Montview Middle School and High School at 2000 Valentia Street. William Roberts K-8 School at 2100 North Akron Way. Ashley Elementary at 1914 Syracuse Street. Vanguard Classical School West at 801 Yosemite Street. Vega Collegiate Academy at 1345 Macon Street. The Logan School for Creative Learning at 1005 North Yosemite Street. Montessori Children's House of Denver Central Park Campus at 2211 North Xanthia Way. Parks located within 1 mile of this offender. Crescent Park, McNichols Park, Greenway Park, Kelly Open Space, Westerly Creek Park, Verbena Park, New Freedom Park, Great Lawn Park, Westerly Creek Lowry. Recreation centers located within 1 mile of this offender. Montclair Rec Center at 729 Ulster Way. Bus routes located within 1 mile of this offender. Route 105, Central Park and 29th Avenue, Central Park and Wabash Street, Central Park and 23rd Avenue, Central Park and 21st Avenue. Route 20, Montview Boulevard and Yosemite Street. A brief history of sex offense-related convictions for this offender. Attempted sexual assault on a child and unlawful sexual contact. He's not currently on probation or parole and last registered with the Denver Police Department on April 9, 2025 to 1474 Xenia Street, number 3 in the East Colfax neighborhood of Denver. Additional charges against this offender include domestic violence, aggravated robbery, second-degree assault, felony menacing, arson, extortion, first-degree trespass, parole violations, possession of a controlled substance, escape. Frank Roberto Maestas has been determined a sexually violent predator after meeting the following criteria. Criteria 1, age 18 or older on the date of the offense, or under 18 and tried as an adult. The offender was age 40 at the time of the offense. Criteria 2, the crime must have been committed on or after July 1, 1997 and convicted on or after July 1, 1999. Crimes include sexual assault, felony unlawful sexual contact, sexual assault on a child by a person in a position of trust. The offender was convicted on September 5, 2008 for attempted sexual assault on a child and unlawful sexual contact. Criteria 3, the relationship to the victim was one of the following. Victim was a stranger to the offender, or the offender established or promoted a relationship with the victim primarily for the purpose of sexual victimization. The 11-year-old female victim was known to the offender. Criteria 4, positive results or the passing of a risk assessment instrument administered by probation parole staff and a qualified treatment evaluator. Positive results include an assessment for the presence of a mental abnormality, a level of denial regarding the offense, treatment appropriateness and motivation, presence of sexual deviant interests. The offender was evaluated by the Arapahoe County District Courts with positive results, determining him to be a sexually violent predator.